Hi everyone, I'm Becky from the University of Kent's Institute of Cultural and Creative Industries. This week, along with our partners Creative Estuary, we're hosting a series of panel discussions about creative careers. And today we are putting a spotlight on the theatre and performing arts industry. So we are joined by this lovely panel here of people working in this industry in a variety of different job roles. And we're going to hear from them about what their job involves, how they got into their particular careers, and just some top tips from them about, for anyone interested in pursuing a career in this industry. So we'll kick off just by asking the panel to introduce themselves, if that's okay. So Vicki, can we start with you?
Hello, hi, I'm Vicki Amedume. I'm Artistic Director of Upswing, which is a contemporary circus company based in London. And we produce work where we use circus as a vehicle to explore relationship dynamics and different thematic and narrative stories.
Amazing, thank you. Emma.
Hello, my name's Emma Rangel. I am a stage manager. I'm a freelance stage manager, self-employed, and I work mostly in theatre.
Lovely, thanks. Beth?
Hello, I'm Beth James. I'm Artistic Director of Square Pegs Arts. We're a charity and we run lots of different theatre and arts projects for people who have learning disabilities or who are neurodiverse.
Cool, thank you. Tom?
I'm Tom Connor. I'm the technical manager for the Gulbenkian Theatre, Gulbenkian Cinema, and the Collier Ferguson Orchestra Hall.
Thank you. And Toby?
I'm Toby Ealden. I'm the artistic director of Zest Theatre. We're based in Lincoln, in the East Midlands, and we're a national touring theatre company that specialises in work with teenagers, particularly co-creating work with young people to amplify their voices.
Awesome. And Leah?
Hello, I'm Leah Prentaki. I am creative producer. I split my time between working at The Place, which is a dance theatre in London, and I also work independently with a number of dance artists and companies to produce work for audiences, young and not so young.
Cool, thank you. So yeah, our first question is, what does a typical day look like for you in your job? So yeah, just give us a little bit of an idea of what you might do in a day in your line of work. So Vicki, can you kick us off again?
So I have the dual role of artistic director and CEO, and they're kind of slightly different jobs. On my CEO days, it's mainly planning and thinking about the company strategy, what we're doing and why we're doing it, and supporting all of the other members of the Upswing team to do their jobs. So typical CEO day might be looking at a fundraising application. It might be planning a tour, or it might be supporting some of our freelance artists with the work that they're aspiring to do. And for my artistic director days, which are my most fun days, it'll either be doing some research around a production that we are in the process of developing, or I'll be in the rehearsal room with some brilliant artists devising new ideas using circus, aerial, acrobatics, juggling, or I'll be working with a writer to storyboard our next production. So it's kind of split between those two spaces.
Wonderful, thank you. And Emma, what about you?
So within stage management, my role is the deputy stage manager, and I have two very different days depending on if we're in rehearsals or if we're in a theatre running a show. So if we're in rehearsals, stage management are always in early, and you have to set up the rehearsal room for the day, look after the actors, the director, pass on any notes that they've got, set up the scenes for the actors to do, set up any props. And also a very big one during rehearsals that I do is blocking. So that means that every movement whether it's by an actor or stage management. I have to note that all down in a book, which is called the prompt copy. And that's the Bible of the show. So I know where everybody is at any point during the show. And then when we go into the actual theatre, my role then is to use that prompt copy that I've created to then call the show, which means that anything that happens technically, such as a sound cue, a lighting cue, something flying in, a piece of automation, I call it. So I run the show as it's happening. And I'm looking out for anything that might cause any accidents to actors who might be in the wrong place. I call the actors on and off. So basically, when the show is running, I am in charge of the actors and everything technically to make sure that it all runs as it should.
Very important job. Thank you for that, Emma. Beth?
Hello. Yes, so mine is similar to Vicki actually, in that my role is split between artistic director and CEO really. We're a charity, so in my CEO kind of head, that work is around fundraising, it's around working with partner organisations, so we do a lot of work with other people, other companies, other organisations, and that's venues and other creative organisations, things like that. It's also having lots of meetings with people. It's contributing to what else is going on locally, making sure that we've got a voice in that. And for me, that's about making sure that people with learning disabilities have a voice within that as well. And then in the artistic director side of things, that's about overseeing our different programs of work. So we have a team of artists and other people who work with us. So it's guiding and supporting them on what they're doing creatively. And then for our theatre company, when we're making work, it's about working with that team. So we have a creative producer, we have a director, maybe a writer, composer, designer who we work with. So I'll be kind of overseeing that and helping steer them in what direction a show might be going, and making sure that all of our artists who all have different access needs and things are all being supported and looked after in the right way.
Fabulous, thank you. Tom?
Yep, so my job is to make sure any of the incoming events or shows that are coming into the venue have all the required technical equipment and all the details previously or before they get on site, to make sure when they do come in, everything is smooth sailing, as well as making sure that we, along with our cinema, we have the film ready and programmed in just to make sure it's all smooth running. I also deal with a lot of contractors coming on site and looking after the maintenance of the building.
Cool, thanks. Toby?
My role is very similar to Vicki and Beth, so I'm not going to repeat too much, but we're a really small organisation. So I like the idea that Vicki's sharing of having like chief exec days and artistic director days. My days are just mushed together all the time. So I could be in one headspace, one half an hour, and then another headspace on the other one. So I do much the same stuff as both Beth and Vicki. But I am also responsible for our board as well. So we have a board of trustees as a charity, so I'm answerable to them and try and keep them in the loop of what's going on. And our focus with young people means that I spend a lot of time currently in Zoom rooms or in real life in spaces with young people, just chatting and hanging out and understanding the world from their point of view. And often as the artistic director, I find myself in places where I'm advocating for young people, maybe at conferences, or maybe sometimes talking to whole staff teams of at a council or local authority to try and amplify and share those voices from young people that we've met creatively.
Cool, thank you. And Leah?
So I also, similarly to Toby, mush my days together. Whether that's a wise idea or not, yet to find out. I do like the variety. So my typical days, involve a variety of activities, from talking with the artists that I support and understand what they want to make, what is their vision, what is their desires, and what is their needs, and planning fabulous future projects, finding the partners for them, thinking how to shape them and how to bring artistic ideas to reality is big part of what I really love doing. Then of course is the projects that are already being shaped, so you're in the middle of connecting all the creatives together, of making sure everybody understands their role, of doing all the work that happens before Emma and Thomas role jump in and the creatives jump in to make it happen. So the producer kind of puts everything together with the artists to have it all ready. And then of course I also program work for young audiences. So another big part of what I do is I travel, I go to festivals, I watch loads and loads and loads of theatre and select pieces to bring back to London, but also to make connections with those companies and understand what is out there, what we call sort of the excellent work that is in Europe and in the world, and how does that compare with what we can produce in this country, which of course, apart from programming, because we can't afford to bring all of it here, helps us with ideas about what we can create here at home. And then the last big part of what I do is trying to understand what's happening. So I'm you need to be a very curious person in order to be a producer in a way, and a CEO. These guys also do this, a lot of this, but understanding what is the funding streams, who has the money, who holds the money, who can make new projects happen, who is out there, who's making new work, who are the important players, who to talk to. So networking and staying on top of everything that's happening around you, because I find that it's the thing that is impossible to do is to make artistic work in a silo. You can't make it in your own on the studio. It needs to be relevant, and it needs to link up with everything that happens all around us. So yeah, I run pretty busy days like everybody else that shared with us today.
But pretty fun. I feel like all these jobs are very fun. And yeah, it's useful to understand the difference between your producing side and your programming side, as well, these two different roles. Thank you. So yeah, our next question is just to ask a bit more about your pathways into your career. So how did you get into the job that you're in now? What was your story? And obviously there's so many different routes into this industry, and so these aren't all kind of set in stone of what you would do, but yeah, it's just useful to have a few different examples. So Vicki.
So I think my pathway has been kind of quite accidental, I think is the best way to describe it. So I didn't anticipate or think I wanted a career in the arts. I trained in sciences and I was at university studying science. And then I started, I hung out with some circus people. I trained with them for fun and I fell in love with it. And I literally ran away with the circus. So I went on tour with them and I thought, well, I'll hang out. This will be a fun summer. I'll train and I'll see where I get to. At the end of the summer, I decided I loved it so much that I wanted to continue my training, and I kind of packed my bag and went to Europe and found some circus schools in Europe. And I thought, again, this was just going to be something I was going to try for a while and see how it worked out, because I didn't know that people could have careers in the arts. I literally didn't know that was a world that you could work in and earn money in. I ended up auditioning for various companies and working in different spaces and continuing my training until I got to a point where I felt like I'd done enough working for other people and I wanted to make my own work. And I set up my company as a space to do that. And again, it was something I thought I'll probably just do this for a little while and see how it goes, and then I might try something else, because I didn't know that there was a whole kind of ecology of arts companies that exists, and I didn't know anything about arts funding. Made some work and was fortunate to have conversations with the right people in the right moment that helped me understand what the opportunities around making work might be and what the opportunities around setting up a company might be. As Upswing has grown, it's not just become a space for me, it's become a space for a lot of other artists, particularly ethnically diverse artists, because in the arts in general, we are an underrepresented group. In circus in particular, there are very, very few spaces where ethnically diverse performers can go and not feel like they're in a minority. So that's become the real focus of the company, creating a space for artists to come and make work without feeling like their identity determines the kind of work that they can make. And for us to use circus to reach people that circus is a very accessible art form, and it's one that has huge reach, but every time we perform in front of audiences, we have a whole kind of group of ethnically diverse people, particularly young people, come and say, I didn't realize that this was a space for me, and that is exactly how I felt when I started.
That's incredible. Yeah, so important. Thank you. Emma.
So I started off, I went to University of Kent to do a drama degree, and the first term that I was there, the first module was technical theatre. So we learnt about lighting, sound and stage management. And this was the first time that I'd been exposed to those sort of things. When you're just in secondary school, you just when you talk about theatre, you're just talking about acting. That's all they really offer you. And this was the first time that I really learned about the other roles that there are within the theatre that I could pursue. And I thought that sounded much more interesting than just being on the stage and acting. So after my first term, I thought I'll just apply to some drama schools, see if I get in. If I don't get in on any technical theatre courses, I'll just carry on. But I did get in, and then I went off to do a course at Guildford School of Acting. And that was a 2-year course with an optional 3rd year to get the degree. But I just did the 2 years. And then after my 2nd year, I was just applying for jobs. See again if I got anything. If I didn't, then I would stay on and do the optional 3rd year. And I did. I got my first deputy stage manager job. And then I've just been working on as a DSMer since then. I did go initially to drama school to do primarily work in sound, but I found that, now this was 15 years ago, that it was much more, if you're a girl, you do stage management. If you're a boy, you can do sound and lighting and that sort of thing. So I was kind of pushed more towards stage management and held away from sound. But I found a lot more over the years that there are a lot more women working in the technical branches, which is great. I wish that I'd had that more and I'd had the courage to go and pursue that. But now in a lot of my jobs, I find that I am having to do the sound and the lights, which is great. On one hand, on the other hand, it's producers taking away jobs from other people. But yeah, just whatever branch of theatre you like, just pursue it and don't let anyone say that you can't do it.
Definitely. Cool, thank you, Emma. Beth.
Yes, so I went to university and studied theatre, film and television. I didn't really know what I wanted to do other than that I maybe wanted to work in one of those areas. So I did quite a course that was quite broad and gave me lots of different experiences and skills. I thought I wanted to work in children's TV, but then after doing a bit of that, discovered I didn't really like it. And then I did some work in theatre and education. So that was touring mainly around Italy, doing shows for children. which were based on language, and I realised then, I suppose, the power of theatre and how it can cross over communication barriers. In that sense, it was about language, but I really fell in love with that transformational side of theatre. But what I actually discovered was I really enjoyed doing the workshops that we did, actually more than the performances. So when I came back from Italy after touring for quite a while, I started doing more and more workshops, running different drama-based workshops for different groups of people, mainly young people, lots of work with young offenders and with young people with disabilities, and lots of kind of more diverse groups, I suppose, because I enjoyed that more. I did some other jobs as well, working in theatres, with youth theatres, working for arts teams in councils, lots of different jobs in the arts. But I realised that what I really loved and what I was passionate about was working with disability. So I, amidst all of that and getting all this other experience, and I did quite a lot of volunteering as well, which really helped me, especially with children with disabilities. It gave me lots of skills. But amidst all that, I set up a little drama group for young people with autism and different social communication difficulties. And that was the start of what is now Square Pegs Arts, about 16 years ago. And so from that little drama group that I set up, we've grown and grown and grown. And yeah, now we're an organisation, and I've got a team, and we do lots of different things. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool, thank you. Tom.
So much like most people, I started off doing a workshop at a local theatre when I was a teenager, who wanted to give people a understanding and a trial of technical theatre. From that, I kind of loved it and pursued kind of how I got into it. So I went off to college. From there, I found which area of expertise I enjoyed. So much like Emma, I really enjoyed sound. So I went off to drama school, to the Central School of Speech and Drama, and specialised in sound design. Graduating there, I made lots of different contacts with different companies and hire companies and kind of performance groups. Went off and became a freelance sound engineer. And kind of from there, it kind of progressed into, oh, do you mind just touching a little bit on projection? So worked a bit on that, then went off to lighting and became a freelance technician who kind of went across the world doing random bits and pieces here and there. It wasn't until a few years later where a friend of mine who was a technical manager at a local venue asked me to come along and give them a hand. So their kind of senior technician, assistant technical manager, was on maternity leave. So I jumped in the spot and kind of fell in love with kind of the management side of it, being able to do all various aspects. And kind of from there, kind of progressed to technical manager from job to different jobs, really.
Awesome, thanks. Toby.
I started out training as an actor at a place called Bretton Hall, which was part of Leeds University, but doesn't exist anymore, sadly. And I thought that was what my life was destined to be. I thought I would stay around that part of the country, like near Leeds, be a northern-based actor. And I did pick up some kind of school tours, gigs, but it didn't really take off in the way that I anticipated. And a year after graduating, found myself back in my hometown of Lincoln, which I never anticipated ever returning to. Back with mum and dad, ran out of money, had to move home, and took a job with a national organisation called NACRO, which were predominantly a housing organisation, actually supporting those leaving prison or families who were facing like housing problems. But they had a youth activities project for Lincolnshire, which was arts based. And so I took a job with them in a salaried position, didn't really think I'd stay. It was kind of a stopgap thing, but ended up staying there 3.5 years. And in many ways, that was my real training. So in that job, ended up working with a whole range of young people across the whole of the county, who were in all sorts of different positions, from those in mainstream school, young people with disabilities, young offenders, young people excluded from school, so a whole range of different young people and different settings that I'd never experienced actually personally. So really learned about what theatre could be to those people and the difference it could make to their lives, and was very rarely in the theatre building. And so that kind of opened my eyes to the difference that the arts could make in a community setting. And after 3.5 years, that project closed, and I had a choice basically of trying to find a job elsewhere. Lincolnshire's not particular, there's not a huge cultural scene here. So I had a choice basically of leaving or staying, and ended up just kind of picking off where my previous employers had left off really. So picked up some of the projects that they couldn't deliver anymore, including a youth theatre group in Lincoln. And then Zest grew from there really. So now Zest's a national touring company that works all over the place and has relationships, including the Gulbenkian, you know, quite far from where we live, but actually reaching young people all over the place, based on that initial training I had back with NatCro, kind of like back in the day, 2003 sort of time. So yeah, I guess not a linear path, but kind of just taking opportunities when they came up and finding myself in places I didn't expect.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, bringing together all those different elements and then creating, yeah, your kind of vision for Zest. Amazing, thanks. Leah.
So mine has been a long journey. So I started as a child. I always danced. I did ballet. I was quite committed to it, and I trained pretty much 6 days a week. So when it came to going to university, and this was in where I was born and grew up, in Athens in Greece. So when it came for me to choose what to do with university, I procrastinated a bit. I carried on dancing, and I radically decided that actually I'm going to go to drama school. So I didn't start my kind of dance training immediately. So I went to drama school and I trained as an actor. And after I finished that in Athens, then I decided that I wanted to combine my two kind of loves of dance and drama, but I have to come clean. I do not like musical theatre. So I was looking around the world for courses that will allow me to do dance and drama, but not as a musical theatre. And the place I landed was Birmingham. Birmingham University used to have a course that was a dance course, but you were allowed to choose straight drama modules. So I sort of found it, and it was a really incredible experience. I did a dance degree there, and selected pretty much 50-50 between dance and drama modules, and sort of shaped my curriculum. After I finished there, I did a master's of philosophy, where I looked at the choreography, the contemporary choreography for the ancient chorus in modern interpretations of Greek tragedy. So I went a bit academic, and I looked at all of that and combined lots of different bits of my brain, lots of thinking. And then after I'd done that, I decided actually now I want to be a dancer. So then I went to London Contemporary Dance School and fully finished off my training as a dancer, and after that spent a number of years touring, dancing with companies, making my own work, choreographing, using my dual hat and being a movement director with a lot of theatre companies, and started teaching dance. I taught dance kind of massively. I think one particular term I remember having learned the names of about 300 children, and I've got a good brain for names, which is good for the children that I came across. So I taught lots and lots and lots. I danced, I choreographed, I did all of that, and then an opportunity came my way to lead the education department, to cover the maternity leave of the person that was looking at the education department at the place. So I jumped into that and I started doing that, and I discovered a real love for making things happen, having had all the experience of being there and doing it myself. The world that God revealed to me was all of what happens before the artist steps on to anything. I was fascinated by that world, and more I got into what we call arts management and producing. And then at some point, my focus shifted entirely to that, and to being the facilitator and enabler that lets other artists make their work.
Cool, thank you. So our final question is just, what would your top tips be? So for somebody interested in pursuing a career in theatre or in your particular role, yeah, what would be your main tips for somebody? So Vicki.
I would say be curious. I think we've all talked about curiosity a little bit, but I think being curious, because we often go into situations where we don't know anything. You know, a lot of my career has been not knowing, and then asking people to get enough information to find out and make a decision, or decide on which direction I was going to go. So be curious. Don't be afraid of asking people for help. It's really strange. When I first started, I was really nervous about asking people for help, because I thought it showed that I wasn't capable. But what I've realized actually is that we often need to ask for help, and quite often when you ask for help, people are really happy to give it. And the last thing I would say is, for anybody who is an artist, or even if you function like Toby, Beth and I do, and Leah as well, that you have to do some of the organising and the practical stuff around the work that you do. Try and maintain an artistic practice, because that's why you started it, and it's really important to stay in love with what you do, and that's it.
Yeah, really good advice, thank you. Emma.
I would say try and upskill as much as you can, learn as many things as you can, so you've got lots of strings to your bow, such as like I said before, lighting and sound, because a lot of the time when I'm a DSM, I'm also operating the lighting and the sound these days, and also on roles before I've done things as well, like be on the costume. I've also understudied before. If you can have as much knowledge of other things as well, upholstery of furniture, props, furniture, if you can know about as many things as possible, then that makes you as marketable as possible, and people will want to work with you. I'd say try and get as involved as you can as soon as you can. So if that means, if you want to try and whack your local theatre and try and get some work experience, I know that the National Theatre run courses in backstage theatre for, I think it's about 16 to 21-year-olds, where you can learn about backstage theatre and producing. They really like to work a lot with young people, and even just small events around where you live, in your school, in your area. Just try and get in as much work experience as you can. You don't have to even go to drama school. A lot of the people that I've worked with have just built up their experience, and then they're just working on bigger and bigger jobs. Drama school isn't the be all and end all, it's just one route. And then my last one would be friendly to everybody, because it doesn't matter what position you're in. If there's someone who is an understudy or an assistant stage manager, you never know what they're going to progress to be. A lot of people start out as understudies, ASMs, small roles. They go on to be directors, producers. So never look down on someone, because one day they might be looking for work, and then if you've been horrible to them, they're probably not going to choose you.
Yeah, great tips, thank you. And Beth, what about you?
Okay, so my first one is to get as much experience as you can. So that could be through volunteering or work experience. And I think that's really important, partly to find out what you like and what you want to do and what you're good at and what makes you full of joy, but also, and similarly to what Emma was just saying, it's meeting people, and it's kind of what we call networking, and getting yourself known, and presenting yourself to lots of different people, because that could always, you never know if that could end up being a job. A lot of people that work for me started as volunteers, and I wouldn't have given them the job if I didn't know them through their volunteering role. And also I've helped people get jobs with other people who I know from volunteering with me, and I've recommended them to other people, so that's always really useful. The second thing I think is to find a way of being your true self. So I believe really strongly that it's really important to celebrate difference and to celebrate what's different about you. And actually, if you can make that part of your work, then that's even better. And none of us can be our best if we're hiding a part of ourselves, or if we're not comfortable with who we are, and if the people around us don't accept us for who we are. So find people and places that make you feel that, and that where you know that you're respected and actually celebrated for being different. We all have our differences, so it's whatever that means to you. And then my third one is I guess just to kind of believe in yourself, and believe that actually anything can happen. When I started my little drama group 16 years ago, when I was kind of in my early 20s, and I just started off a little drama group, if someone had told me then that that would be my full-time job, and I'd have a team of people, and I'd be making really important work, and actually making a real impact on loads of people's lives, you know, I don't think I would have believed it. But you can actually, you know, you can make things happen if you work hard and you find the right people, and you you believe in yourself.
Yeah, thanks. Toby.
Oh, there's so many things. So I guess there's a thing, isn't there, where we do our A-levels, and then for some of us, we drop out of our A-levels at like 18, and we're like, okay, what next? Or we do our degree and we're like, okay, what next? Because everything has been like pushing us through an education system, and then suddenly you've got to do it on your own, and that can feel really daunting. So I guess know that like it hasn't all got to happen straight away, and that actually you've got your whole life to achieve the dreams that you want to do. So like most of the people around the screen are saying, like take those little opportunities when they come up, even if then they don't feel like they're particularly glamorous. Like Beth was saying, I'm sure when she set up that group, she didn't think it would become the organization it has now, but she followed her heart and made something happen. So where can you look out for opportunities, and where can you create opportunities for yourself? And particularly for young people that I meet from working class areas, they feel like suddenly they've finished their A-levels or at a BTEC, and then that's it. There doesn't seem to be anything else on their doorstep. And actually reach out to organizations like the people on this screen, because we exist for those sorts of things. So reach out to us and call out to us. It can be a hard work in this industry, and there can be a lot of rejection. So I would really recommend like working out what works for you in terms of self-care. So how can you give that yourself some space to like just relax and get away from it and relieve those pressures and cope with those pressures? And also, I guess for me, working in the arts has always been an active service. It's always been focused on other people and been outward looking. So you know, how can we keep doing that? And particularly for organizations like mine that are predominantly white led, how can we keep providing opportunities for people that don't look and sound like us, that don't have the same heritage as us, expanding those opportunities, so we're being really inclusive of everybody, particularly around race at this time, I think.
Yeah, awesome, thanks Toby. And Leah.
So one of the things I'd say is that if you're looking at being part of the culture sector, you're clearly a creative person. And my top tip is to remember that at all points, and to remember that any obstacle you would face can be overcome with creativity. And that's every single thing. That there isn't really such a thing. And I think as you look around this sort of collection of people, you can see that most of us have gone out and created our jobs. Most of us have made our path what it is. And that is because in reality, what we are at the heart of it is creative. We found solutions where a job wasn't fitting what we cared about or what we skilled up to do, or what they might have been looking at the point where we kind of entered. So when you get to a point of looking for a job and there isn't an advert that sort of fits, or you go to a job that you really want to do and then they don't offer it to you, that's definitely not the end of that route. That is what should offer you the parameters around which you can then build your path and where you want to go. So that's my first top tip. That's and a lot of really interesting artists I've met along the way have done that for themselves. And that's where brilliant stuff happens. You know, if you think about all the exciting directors and choreographers and spoken word poets, nobody gave them a full-time 9-to-5 job. And actually, would they be who they are if somebody did? That's another question. And my other second top tip is to stand up for each other. That the way we can support again, it's hand in hand with creativity, but the reason why we exist as a sector is to shine a light on humanity and who we are and what we are. And we need to not forget that when we are working with each other and when we're working to create something. So you might be kind of creating a piece of theatre that is all about sort of kindness and empathy, and what you do not want to do is to see sort of bullying and behaviour that doesn't reflect the art that we're wanting to make, because in order to sort of be authentic, and something that Toby just said and Beth said about being your true self and sort of representing and standing up, and that as humans needs to happen behind the scenes, and you'll be even stronger than when it kind of manifests as culture, and that's how we can anyway support each other, make opportunities for each other, and make sure that everybody is represented in all parts of life, but more importantly within theatre and the performing arts, because that's what we're talking about. So those are my two thoughts.
Amazing, thank you. That was really like valuable, rich advice there from all of you. Thanks so much for that. We've lost Tom. I think he had to run off and attend to something in the venue, which is just the life of a technical manager, so that's fine. But thank you so much to all of you for sharing your stories and your advice, and thank you everyone for watching as well. And after the video there's going to be a slide coming up with some contact information for ICCI and Creative Estuary, so feel free to drop us a line if you've got any questions. If you've got questions for any of our panelists, I'm sure we can pass them on, and just get in touch if you want any more information. But thank you again so much to all of you and everyone for watching. Bye.